He wakes in the dead of night. His eyes are open, but he can't move. Something heavy presses on his chest, and a warm breath grazes his ear. He knows there's no one in the room, and yet he's not alone. For thousands of years, this moment has been understood as an encounter with a succubus demon, or incubus if the subject had been female. As someone who's experienced sleep paralysis a few times in my life, albeit briefly, thankfully, these are two of the monsters that have most haunted me. And the Jungian psychology take on their meaning also rings a few bells. Let's see if it does for you. My name's Hazel Gale, I'm a therapist turned author and co-creator of the Betwixt app, and this video is for anyone who finds themselves fascinated by the lure of monsters, demons and other terrifying things. Anyone who knows that these dark archetypes have more to offer than mere menace. So we're starting with perhaps the most dreadful of them all, incubi and succubi. The incubus was said to be a male demon who forced himself on women in their sleep. The succubus, his female counterpart, seduced men in the same way, feeding on their energy and sometimes their soul. These stories stretch back to Mesopotamia, where demons called Lilu, male, and Lilitu, female, haunted the darkness of night. Believed to be restless spirits of adolescents who died before they could marry or have children, these monsters preyed on humans, especially during vulnerable times such as pregnancy and infancy. A little later, we have the legend of Lilith, a fierce, untamed night spirit. In Jewish folklore, Lilith was said to be Adam's first wife, who, after refusing to be subservient, left the Garden of Eden to become a night demon. Lilith is sometimes described as a succubus and sometimes as a symbol of female defiance, independence, and the rejection of patriarchal norms. Naturally, I love her. Skipping forward again, in medieval Europe, monks wrote about unseen figures pinning them to their beds. Even Shakespeare wrote about night hags that pressed themselves into sleepers' bodies during the night. When it comes to these night visitors, reports from across centuries describe the same chilling sensations. A crushing weight on the chest, the sense of a presence climbing onto the bed, the body locked in paralysis, and, for some, an unnerving edge of pleasure or desire. Science now calls this phenomenon sleep paralysis, a state where the mind wakes but the body stays frozen in REM sleep. In that blurred space between waking and dreaming, the brain, still on high alert for danger, has no real-world clues to work with. So, especially if you're anxious or stressed at the time, it fills in the blanks with horror. You sense a watcher, a stalker, a predator with you. If your body is also in a state of sexual arousal at that point, as it often is during the night, then that gets factored into the imagined experience too. However it happens, and I'd imagine regardless of whether or not you're aware of the scientific reason for such an experience, this is surely terrifying. So how on earth can we use the concept of incubi and succubi to improve our mental health? Carl Jung saw demons and dream beings as projections of what we fear or what we repress. An incubus or succubus may appear when desire and shame collide, for example, which would make sense of the medieval monks' experiences. Prohibited from acting on sexual urges during their waking hours, their bodies would have been even more likely to discharge, for want of a better word, those energies during sleep, therefore making the monks perfect prey for demonic sexual hallucinations. Eek. But we don't need to take a vow of celibacy for this idea to apply to us. What if these demons could descend whenever the unconscious demands we look at any of the parts of ourselves we've tried to bury? Our bodies carry our repressed fear, shame, and everything else into sleep, during which time our conscious waking defences are offline. If we were to experience sleep paralysis, our minds could potentially turn any unconscious fear into something that feels entirely real, a demon of the night. And perhaps those same unconscious mechanisms fuel our waking obsession with terrors such as aliens, zombies, and wicked witches. Regardless of whether they come to us in our dreams, what if the monsters that really get to us do so because they bear an important message? That there is something we need to open our eyes to, if we're brave enough to do so. Over the next little while, we'll be sharing a new series of Betwixt videos, Menaces of the Mind, the mysterious meaning of monsters. If you're also fascinated by the demons of myth, folklore, and modern movies alike, and would like to know how these dark archetypes can improve your self-awareness and mental health, then please join us.